Welcome, everyone, to our Professional Pathways webinar series. This webinar is entitled Fresh Out and Flying High. I'll be your host. My name is Dr. Lisa Giacumo, and I'm a new assistant professor at Boise State University as of this past August. And over December, I had the pleasure of being able to help confer Tiffany Carter's master's degree upon her in graduation. She is now the HR specialist for employee development with the Department of Justice Criminal Division in Washington, D.C. In addition, we have Suzanne Alexander, who graduated with us in 2014. She is the e-learning curriculum developer at Amazon Web Services. And we also have Deanne Allen, who graduated a few years earlier in 2011, and she is now serving as the Learning and Development Solutions Analyst at St. Luke's. So thank you so much, everyone, for joining us here today. So I'll start out with the first question. I would love to hear from each of you about your current role. So sometimes your role is a little bit different than your official title. And so I'd love to hear a little bit more about what it is you're doing on a daily basis and how long you've been in this role. So Deanne, would you like to start?
Absolutely. So I have been in this role officially since 2013. And I'll also add that I started with St. Luke's as an instructional designer and then transitioned into this role kind of awesomely without having to apply for it. So, a learning and development solutions analyst, the role itself has actually been kind of new or is new to the organization. And truly, it's a position that we're still trying to define within the organization, which has been great, but challenging and rewarding at the same time. So, I am part of what's called the Center for Learning and Development, and we essentially are brought in on a number of projects and programs on various scales. So, we truly do serve that analyst role in terms of we try to fulfill the whole HPI gamut and follow the HPI model. We do everything literally from performance analysis to solution recommendation, selection, course design and implementation. We do a lot of ID, specifically a lot of e-learning, because as a healthcare in the healthcare sector, obviously we have a lot of regulatory and compliance requirements. Um, from there, we're really still struggling with the evaluation part of it, but really, who isn't, right? And we're trying to really trying to gain traction as experts in change management. And I'm saying we a lot because of or instead of because my team is actually made up of a group of LSAs, and I think of us really as one, since many of us have different interests and levels of expertise, which we all value and we really respect, but it leads to kind of a great team dynamic. And we focus on projects and programs kind of based on that. And so I kind of serve as a Jane of all trades roles. I do everything from e-learning to, of course, the initial analysis piece, all the way up to change management. So it's an interesting yet growing role.
Yeah, that sounds familiar, having responsibilities for lots of different hats in an
Right.
organization. So thank you so much.
Yeah.
Tiffany, would you like to tell us a little bit about what you've been doing recently?
Surely. Yes, I started as the HR specialist for employee development with DOJ Crim in July of 2014. And in that capacity, I too have been wearing many hats, managing all training center operations for I think we're over 1,600 people in the division. We serve attorneys, the paralegal and litigation support specialists, and the other professionals. Those are your analysts, those are your HR specialists like me, the IT specialists, et cetera. So training center operations, learning management system, we're going through an upgrade right now. So being a key systems administrator for our LMS, and that is a success factors product we're about to upgrade. It's kind of a mess right now, but we're working our way through that. But I think that the most rewarding part of my job is bringing all the things that we've learned in this curriculum to CRIM, because they weren't thinking about needs assessment. They weren't thinking thoughtfully about learning transfer, knowledge transfer before I got there. And we conducted a full needs assessment in 2014. Through that, we were able to create a training calendar, series of programs to carry us from FY15 to FY17. We're seeing marked progress on our federal employee viewpoint survey in specific areas related to training. So it's nice to be able to turn the dial a little bit and bring some culture change. And we're asking questions in our surveys and our evaluations that actually do measure whether learning is actually happening. So I've started something, I think. And I looked at the subject for this talk and I was like, flying high? I don't know if I am yet because I'm straight out the gate. I just graduated a few months ago, but the wings are flapping. I haven't crashed and burned yet, so
No.
that's it.
Yeah, and it sounds like you are having an opportunity to really be a change agent for this
Absolutely.
organization. And that's something that I was told when I was a student too, like, you guys don't know it, but you're gonna grow out there and you're gonna make changes happen and you're gonna be a change agent. And I thought, I don't even know what that means, but it means what you're doing. You're getting results and you're influencing how things are done in your organization in a way that is impacting people that are far beyond anybody that you're meeting on a daily basis. So that's a really huge accomplishment.
Thank you. I need to remember that on my challenging days because, again, I work with attorneys. I'm just going to leave that out, put that out there. I work with attorneys.
Being a change agent is not for the weak of heart. It's true.
No.
Well, good job. And Suzanne, would you like to share with us a little bit about what you're doing on a
Yeah,
daily basis?
sure. Actually, that all sounds very familiar. And Tiffany, I ache with you on dealing with the attorneys. It's the most challenging subject matter experts and internal customers that I work with. They're a challenging group. But so I work for Amazon Web Services as an e-learning curriculum developer, which I find to be a rather funny name for what I do. But I essentially develop e-learning mostly for technical audiences. So, just as a little bit of background, Amazon Web Services is the cloud computing part of Amazon, and one of our customers is Amazon.com. Although we are Amazon.com, so that's kind of weird, I know, but um, we sell services, computing services globally, and so a lot of the training that I create is I specialize in the e-learning end of it, and that is to help um, distribute technical knowledge across the globe for our technical services. How do you create a system, a computer or a cloud computing system on AWS? Um, so that's where a lot of my time has been focused. We are just right now ramping up on our first MOOC delivery system. So we've it's really funny to be a tech company and be behind the curve on all of that. But I found myself in a very similar position as an ID evangelist within my organization, where I discovered that so many folks don't know instructional design. They don't know it as well as you will when you graduate from this program. And so, in my role, I have only been here for a year. I am now the lead instructional designer, and I've written all the best practices and standards and procedures for what we do, templatized the whole job, in interviewing and bringing other people on board, able to identify those people who actually know something about instructional design and those who just fluff it up on their resume. Yeah, that never happens, right? So it's been a really interesting experience, and again, this week has been my 1 year anniversary at AWS, and before that, I was at VMware, which is another cloud computing company doing virtually the same thing. So 3 years is all I've had on instructional design. Um,
Yeah. Well, I find this theme reoccurring amongst each of you three, how you're kind of paving the road and really having an opportunity to create new systems and new practices within your organizations to improve their performance. And I feel really grateful that you all three were able to be here tonight. So just throwing that out there, thank you so much. And you're all doing great jobs. So if you can kind of help us understand or help new people understand that are in the program or about to enter the program or even maybe halfway through and getting ready to, think about what their next step is, what were some of, looking back, what were some of the benefits that you've realized from your graduate study here at Boise State and OPWL? Suzanne, would you like to start us off?
Yeah, well, I think the first thing when I was interviewed by Dr. Stepich before entering the graduate program, and he said, "Well, why do you want?" Same question: "Why do you want to do this?" And gaining the credential, I think, was important in moving my career forward. There are a lot of people out there with a master's degree, but in addition to that, and importantly, I actually wanted to know what I was talking about. So I wanted to be able to be a voice, an expert voice in this profession, and I feel like I gained that in spades. And because I think one of the other things that is stressed in the program so much is evidence-based practice, and because we have documented so well a lot of studies, a lot of the cases that you work on throughout the program, I've been able to speak very intelligently to people. This isn't just something that I'm dreaming up. This is why you should do it this way. It is a better practice. Here are the studies that demonstrate that. So it really does establish you as more of an expert to have that voice behind you.
Excellent. Thank you. And Deanne, would you like to add anything to that?
Yeah, absolutely. Well, I share that as well. And I think that for me, because I didn't come into, my role having a very distinct resume built with my prior experience being related to the program, that the project work and the consultant type work that you do in most of the classes were invaluable. And that just goes back to the whole being able to speak the right language and build that buy-in and credibility. And so
Mhm.
it really truly gave me a lot of portfolio examples that I could speak to during interviews and my lessons learned. And then that confidence piece was so, so helpful because I kind of thought that I'd be at a disadvantage coming out of the program, again, not having such a breadth of experience, but that wasn't the case at all. I really came out confident and with skill sets that made me feel like I could go forward and do the types of things that we do in this role. And then lastly, kind of the network and the community that you build was a huge benefit. Many of my coworkers were also either graduates of the program or are in it now, and so that mutual learning experiences in the community of practice that you continue with outside of the program have been really, really valuable as well.
Excellent. Thank you. And Tiffany, do you have anything to add to that?
Absolutely. I think that what we learn in this program, it gives us a way to talk about training, and I think position it. Certainly my own experience has helped me position training in the minds of my senior leaders and people that I need to get buy-in from as a strategic business driver. It's not just this thing we're going to offer to folks so they can take this class and feel good that they took the class. It's no, we're improving performance. You improve performance, you're able to meet your mission and your vision and all those different things. So it helps us raise the level of importance, I think, for of what we do. It gives us credibility, expertise, all the things that my colleagues here have mentioned. And for me, it also was a confidence builder. It helped me leave the admin assistant, executive assistant world, and now I've got this whole language and literacy that has helped me establish myself, credentialize myself, and this was absolutely a game changer for me. Couldn't have asked for a better experience.
Great. Yeah, thank you. So that's a really a common thread. I'm hearing that the program, some of the benefits that you realized of the program, and some of the reasons why you decided to pursue the program were so that you could gain that expert voice, be a leader within the organization, strategically drive business, and also have that community of practice behind you to support you and back you up. I know that I often call up my colleagues that I went through school with and say, hey, what do you think about this? Or what do you think about that? And, sometimes I've worked in organizations where I was part of a team and I could do that with other people that were on site. But other times I was the only person there. And so really having other people outside of the organization to call upon in certain times was always beneficial, and that's what I'm hearing from you guys too. So what recommendations would you give somebody today who is just starting out, maybe about to enter the program, considering the program, or just in their first couple, 2-3 classes? What kind of recommendations would you offer? Tiffany, would you like to start us out?
Surely. I think that being intentional from the very beginning of this journey, and it is a journey, being intentional about what you want to use your learning for. And the example that I give is I actually made my transition from Seattle, Washington to Washington, D.C. to get into the human capital, federal training and development world around the time that I started this program. And immediately as I started the program, I was in an environment where people were speaking federal training and development practices, best practices, instructional design, change management, all that different stuff. I was surrounded by it every day. So that way, whatever I experienced at work, I could bring back to the classroom and vice versa. And that kind of intentionality, it helped me build that network and, of people that could support me as I was pursuing this degree while working full time. And that kept me encouraged and energized, and it helped me land where I am now at DOJ. So start and continue and finish with intentionality.
Excellent. That's some great advice. And I also liked how you clearly described the building of your network, both here in Boise as well as on the job. You were lucky to have a job kind of in the same area as what you were studying here in Boise. A lot of people come in with that kind of background, but some people are also career changers as well. And I think Suzanne, you said that you had some sort of realization as you got through the program and then got out into the workforce about connecting the dots. And what kind of recommendations would you like to offer people who are they think there might be career changing, kind of like you are?
Yeah, I definitely went through a career change. So I spent the prior 12 years as a web developer, which has little or nothing to do with instructional design. And one day I was looking for a new job in web development, and I came across, because HTML was a keyword, I came across something for instructional design. I had no idea what it was. I didn't even know it existed as a thing. But as I read that, I saw every best quality of myself. Some voice in my head said, you need to do that. I'm mid-career. That was really, really hard decision for me, and it took a lot of commitment. I thought long and hard about whether I really wanted to take that journey, as Tiffany put it, because it's hard. It really is hard. And I spent 2 years going through the program, and my husband paid for it too. He didn't have a wife for 2 years. I was fortunate to be working full time from home, but when I wasn't working, I was working on schoolwork, and it really was very demanding. So I would just say that the very demanding side of it also, I think, helped develop me as a person and a professional. It did really give a tremendous boost to my confidence, so that when I did venture out into instructional design, I was able to speak more intelligently about it. I think I also said something in my notes about embracing the oral defense. So that can be a little bit scary for some folks. And I just want to put it out there. I had to take that twice. So you can survive. Most people pass it the first time through, but what going through that does for you is that it does force you to synthesize all of that and learn to articulate it, so that when you are talking to people on the other end, you are able to make some intelligent sense, and it does make you very believable. I don't want to say that you're saying something that's not true and they believe you, but you are a very credible person, because you're, and I'm doing a very poor job of articulating this right now, but it does help you articulate those things in a more credible way.
Right. Well, I think so. What I'm hearing from your message is some recommendations would be to be ready for a difficult road ahead of you, be ready for a challenge, be ready to grow, and be ready to embrace these things and let yourself shine at the end of the day, and never give up, is what I'm hearing from your recommendations.
Yeah.
So those are great great points to think about as people are just getting started or thinking about getting started and not really sure, you know, where things will take them. So thank you. And Deanne, would you like to add anything?
My thoughts were very similar as well, and I put a note in about the portfolio. So if you are just starting out, definitely don't take that for granted, and as much as you can, build that as you go along in the program, because it does make the defense preparation so much easier. And I think coming out of it, not only does it make the experience more valuable, but then when you do go out into, you know, if it is a career change catalyst for you to find a new job, you can speak, I think, more solidly to that. And then the only other thing that I would add is that you should try to use kind of the classwork if you're not, or even if you are in a role right now that is related to the program. Try to pull in your organization and do, you know, side projects if you can, or work that is related so that you can quickly apply what you're learning in the program. I did that and it
Brilliant.
helped me so much build to my resume, and, you know, to as essentially the confidence in everything coming out of the program.
Oh, that's a great hint too. Yeah, is to try to work it into your workplace whenever ever possible.
Right.
Yeah, and I think we do a good job in our program of providing opportunities for people to go up to their managers and their supervisors and say, hey, you know, I've got this idea. I'd like to take it back into my course. What do you think? Can you work with me on it? So those are lots of opportunities for doing that. Um, Great. So moving along, what were some of the most important lessons or skills that you picked up while in the program? I'm hearing a theme of confidence. I'm hearing work hard. So what are some of the other more practical ideas that you could share with us about the skills and the knowledge that you picked up while you were here? Tiffany, would you like to start us off?
The first thing that comes to mind is time management. Working full time and going to school, that is a balancing act. You if you're not strong in time management, you will when you get into you'll develop that skill for sure. Also, I think this program forces you to enhance your ability to build and maintain relationships, you know, because as you get deeper into the program, you're doing projects and you're working with different personalities and you're learning how to pick your battles sometimes, you know, when things get challenging in that project management environment. So you learn that, how to negotiate when you need to. Yeah, but I think those are two key skills that I think of. And I think just that you can do the hard things, because you will have days in this program that will challenge you deeply, but you, as long as you just stay committed, you can do it. You can do this.
Yeah, great advice, and great observations about those skills. I think that when you go into our jobs, I've had several of them out there in the field in different organizations, you know, in government agencies, universities, for-profits, non-for-profits, non-governmental organizations, and being able to build those relationships and negotiate, you know, they are foundational to every single, it doesn't matter where you are and what your priorities are within your role. They will help you, and you definitely have an opportunity to practice those skills here. Suzanne, do you have anything to add to that?
Yeah, every project that we did in every course, seriously, there was a framework for it, and I have carried those frameworks into my work. And I would just say, don't forget your education when you leave the classroom. Bring it with you into your job. There will be so many people who, well, they have another way of doing it, and you need to have a little bit of backbone and a little bit of confidence to say, I have another recommendation. I think we ought to try it this way. And more than I think, going back to our evidence-based practices, right? I think the other thing that I did throughout the program was I kept a library of all of my
Mm.
references, and preferably electronic, and I have gone back to them again and again, and I've shared them out with people, and I've helped to educate people. I've spoken at some of our learning and development seminars within Amazon. So this has helped me educate some of our own internal instructional design or learning and development staff in better practices. And I definitely have my favorites. I won't go over those, but I don't know where to draw the line, because every single thing that we did in that program has come back on the job.
Oh, that's good to know that you're finding a lot of use out of the time that you spent here. And I love that idea. Keep a library and share the knowledge. Like, you learned to really kind of get organized and maintain that knowledge of where those things are at and when to pull them out and when to push them around. That's a really a great skill to keep. And I also have a library of stuff that I know where to point to when I get into a specific conversation or follow-up email. Hey, it was so great to talk to you today. You know, I just wanted to share some of the information that I've come across, and here you go in case you're interested. So, and that's a great way to build a relationship too, you know? Yep,
Yeah.
go ahead.
One quickie. When I did prepare for the oral defense, I created a cheat sheet of sorts for myself that had just, it was kind of a Reader's Digest of everything ID that we covered in the program. And I, I still go back to that, and I have shared it out with people as well who didn't have the advantage of having my education, but that's also been a very, very useful tool.
Right, the being able to synthesize and analyze large bodies of information into bite-sized nuggets that can help others. Sure, excellent. And Deanne, do you have anything to add? Any knowledge or skills or practical just ways of working that you picked up in the program that you find of use through your job today, rather?
Yeah, absolutely. I would just add that I always hear Dr. V in the back of my head going, "Show me the data." That was a really important
Yes.
takeaway. While you're in the program, oftentimes you might think, "Oh, with everything else going on, life, and because of the project, I just maybe don't have the time to dig as deep and gather that I would." But the reality of it is that when you do get into the field, it's super important. So the more that you can do that within the program, the better you'll be once you get out and apply it to the job. So that was a big takeaway for me. And then
Yeah.
I would just say ditto to the frameworks. I think about the behavioral engineering model and Merrill's principles and things like that I'm still able to use every day and apply in a way that allows me to communicate in more simpler terms to my stakeholders and gain that buy-in. So definitely continue to kind of relate all of those frameworks back to what you're doing on the job and what you could be doing in the future.
Right.
Absolutely.
Yeah. Great points. Data analysis is something that it seems overwhelming at first, or, sometimes you even wonder, well, do I really need this? But after you go through the data and you match everything up, right, patterns kind of jump out, and you're able to focus on what are really the deep-seated underlying root causes of XYZ, and be able to make those changes that you guys have talked about, that result in performance improvement and more efficient and effective workplace functions. Great. So, looking forward, you guys it sounds like you're having an exciting time on the job right now, but what's coming next? What are your short-term career goals? Where do you see yourself, maybe 6 months, 1 year, 5 years out? Deanne, would you like to start us off?
Sure. I would say short term, and I wish my colleagues were here to agree. I think it would really be gaining more traction for our position. We're going through a lot of redevelopment and restructuring, and we're trying to find a niche, and we're kind of doing our own assessment to determine how our job functions relate to other departments in the organization. So I hope that professional development wise, we can continue to build our skills and then our niche in the organization. And then, as silly as it sounds, my short term goal is to make it to an ASTD or ISPI conference. I still have not done that, and that is on my better be soon bucket list.
Excellent. Well, if you need help with making that happen, there's lots of people here that would love to collaborate with you on
Great.
projects. So
Great.
you just have to wave the flag and we will be there for you to support you.
Sounds good.
Suzanne, what about you? Where are you headed in the next 6 months, 1 year, 5 year kind of a short-term goal list? What have you got up there in front of you?
Yeah. Well, so far I've had a lot of conversations about how we do what we do and to do it in a better way. And I want to be more part of the conversation of what we do. Um, Part of the decision making process about how to develop a program, an e-learning or a virtualized program from top to bottom that works and is more effective. So I want to be part of that voice.
Right. So as you first have been starting to develop your career in this area, you're focusing a lot on how do you present information to people, but you see yourself as being able to advance to the next step now is in determining what actually is presented. Um,
Yeah, a more strategic approach.
More
Yeah.
strategic. Yeah, excellent. Very good. And what about you, Tiffany? Where do you see yourself 6 months, 1 year, 5 years?
So I'm actually in transition right now to another federal agency. I've started the security clearance process, and that journey took me to the Pentagon yesterday. And I'm just like, oh my gosh, this is my life, really? Anyway, but my focus will be on leader development, helping leaders be even better leaders, and evaluating leader development programs with this key federal agency. I'm so excited. And I'll get back in the classroom again to teach some leader development content. So, really, really excited. And I'm also still in school right now. I'm doing the graduate certificate program in executive and leadership coaching through the University of Texas at Dallas. And this will, in I think January, February 2017, help me earn the PCC, or what is it, the Professional Certified Coach certification through the International Coaches Federation, or ICF. So I'm still working. I'm still growing. I don't know if I'm flying high, but I'm ascending. We're gaining a little altitude. So getting
Yeah.
there.
Well, that's exciting that you're going to be able to try out that new role in that new organization and work in the Pentagon. Always nice to know somebody there, huh?
So I'm actually going to be stationed in Alexandria. Fingers crossed, though, I'll get a chance to brief at the Pentagon and rub shoulders and all that. But yeah, just being there, and just in light of everything that happened 9/11, it was just a big honor. I'm also a veteran too, so Army. So yeah, good for the heart.
Excellent. Nice. Good, good. And what about long-term goals? Where do you see yourselves, 10 years from now, 15 years from now? What would you like to be doing? Tiffany, would you like to start?
I was going to say, do you want me to start? I
Sorry.
think I can. I'm toying with the idea of a PhD program, probably in leadership and change, something like that. That
Uh-huh.
field of practice just resonates with me, but still
Yeah.
bringing all of these principles and all these practices that we've learned into the PhD classroom, that excites me. And what I notice is that a lot of the chief learning officers in the federal workspace, the majority of them have PhDs. So I'm saying, well, if that's a part of it, if that's what it's going to take, then I'm ready. I'm willing to do the work. But again, that's 10 years down the road. I'm going to need to breathe at some point and just live life.
Yeah.
But I really love what I'm doing, and I love how I've been able to change myself and kind of elevate myself as a result of this work. So
Right.
that's what I see down the road.
Right. Yeah. Never stop learning, right? I've learned that lesson myself. The more that you can invest in yourself, the further you can take yourself down that path and to reach your full potential. So excellent. Deanne, or yes, Deanne, sorry. What about you? Where do you see yourself 10, 15 years away from now?
I too, yeah, would love to pursue some sort of doctorate program. I've been asked that a lot, and I definitely think it will be a bucket list thing, hopefully sooner rather than later. But I think my absolute dream goal, or in the question's dream job, would be to own a business myself that is big enough eventually that allows me to do kind of my own high level organizational performance improvement. And I know that's a big goal, big pipe dream, but that would be very, very neat and
Right.
rewarding.
Well, we have graduates from our program that end up in that kind of a role and situation, that have their own consulting businesses and are
Right.
traveling around the world, helping other organizations develop to their full potential. So I'm sure, one of the things I've learned in my life is that if you keep focused on a goal and you just take one step every day, another step and another step, if you keep your eye on it, you get there one day. It's just amazing how that works. It took me a
So
long time
true.
to learn it, but I'm sure that if you keep your eye on the prize, you will find that in front of you one day.
I hope so, definitely.
I'm sure. And Suzanne, what about you? There you go. Boise State, go Broncos. Suzanne, where do you see yourself 10 years, 15 years from now, maybe 20? Who knows? What kind of role are you going to be in, and who are you going to be?
I don't want to sound like I'm not ambitious, but I have seen what my boss and my boss's boss and my boss's boss's boss do, and I don't think I want their job.
Right?
They work way too hard, and for me, it really is about quality of life. And I like to travel. I enjoy my garden, and I want to have weekends. Early on in this job, I actually spent 2.5 months working every single day, about 10 hours a day, 7 days a week, trying to crank a project out. And it literally put me to tears. And I don't ever want to go there again. So I could see myself consulting in the future.
Hmm.
But I've also been self-employed, and I know what that's about. And it's some people will say, oh, well, you can set your own hours. Okay, well, it's also permission to work all the time.
Right.
And so I guess I'm maybe I'm slowing down a little bit, but I want to retain that quality of life for myself while
Right.
still doing the thing that I love and enjoy. I know that by the time I have finished up, say 5 years at AWS, I should be able to write my ticket just about anywhere I want to go.
Right.
And
Right.
I don't know what that's going to be, but I'm just I try not to judge those things that come into my life and just embrace them. So
Right. 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 Yeah, that's important to remember too, is quality life is key, especially living a healthy lifestyle. And I've seen a lot of people be able to grow and develop, across different organizations, and kind of like you say, write your ticket. You get to kind of choose where you want to head next and who you want to work with, and that's a great position to be in. And also being ready to accept what comes your way, you know
yeah,
that's also a nice way to embrace whatever change is going to happen.
yeah. Well, let me just add this real quick. On this last job that I said I've been here for a year, I had 4 job offers. And that's from the strength of graduating from Boise State, really. But same thing, that it gives you more choices, and it lets you pick from the cream of the crop exactly what you want to do and where your interests are, instead of just taking whatever comes along, because the choices are so limited. So it really does open a lot of doors for you.
Yeah, yeah, that's an excellent aspiration too, to just be able to choose out of many offers. and incredibly valuable. So great. So if you had 2 tips of advice to offer, hello. We love animals here in my household.
Sorry,
Oh, here he comes.
If you had 2 tips of advice to give somebody today who's just starting out, what would those tips be? Deanne, would you like to start us off?
Yeah, absolutely. So it's neat that, we were just talking about not settling, because that was one of my top tips, especially for anyone who, like me, was using it as a career change catalyst. So it was important for me starting out in the program to be proactive and put kind of a financial plan together, and then also to really commit to myself, what was I most passionate about, and which field and which job roles was I most interested in coming out of the program. And then it was important for me to kind of understand what the job titles and some of those opportunities look like. Because I think we mentioned earlier, a lot of times, as an e learning developer or as a performance consultant, sounds like it's one thing, but the reality of it is that it's a lot of potentially different job roles and job tasks. So, really kind of, commit to yourself what you really want to go into once you come out of the program, and then try to set up some sort of a plan to allow you to do that. I took about 6 months to find, really what I thought was the field and the scope of work that I wanted to do, and I too was able to turn down a couple positions until I felt like I was where I wanted to be. And the program definitely helped me do that successfully. And then the other thing that I would say is put yourself out there as much as possible. And what I mean by that is look for internships if your work life balance allows for that, and look for opportunities to maybe publish your work. Do the tales from the field, or journal publications or conference submissions if you can. I promise it's not as scary as it sounds. It really kind of led to a lot of opportunities for me as well. And then also, as I said before, if you have an opportunity to do free consultation or side projects, definitely do that. It really does help.
Excellent. Great tips. So don't settle, find your passion, take time to explore your options, and put yourself out there. Those are excellent words of advice. Thank you so much. Suzanne, would you like to add anything to that?
I think those were some great tips. I guess I would just add to that, definitely keep your library, right? Keep all of your information in good organizational order so that you can find it, right?
Yeah.
Um, Shoot, there was something on my mind, and then it's just totally evading me right now. Oh, so I was in the San Francisco Bay Area, and I decided that I wanted to move to Seattle. And so I didn't know anybody in Seattle. But I met some people largely through Boise State. And that started to become part of that network. And so the idea of starting your networking now, long before you need your network, build that now. And some of the people that are in this program with you, Tiffany, Deanne, these are fantastic ladies who are doing some wonderful things. Won't you be excited to know them in the future, right? So
Right.
definitely, it was some of my I want to call them colleagues because it feels like we worked together, right? But fellow alumni, I was able to make contact out here and help build that network. And I guess the other thing that I just want to put a plug in for, go to graduation.
Yes.
Right.
I was really of the mindset of, oh, I'm too old. That's for all the young kids. You know what? No, it was such a crowning moment, and I needed that for myself. And I'm so grateful for a husband who really pushed me to do it, because I don't think I would have without him and his encouragement. And yeah, I think it really meant a lot to be able to put a stamp on it, you know?
Yeah. Yeah,
Oh,
I know we love it when people come to graduation, getting to meet them. Oh yeah, you get
ah,
You have
mine's
to
in
go
my
to
office.
graduation to get this, folks. Yeah.
it's true. I don't even have one of those. They are sacred because I'm not a graduate of OPWL. Yeah. There's only a few select people in the world that have those, and you're one of them
Yeah.
for sure. Okay, so great tips. Network early, get to know people. Hopefully people will get to know you through this video. I don't know if you would mind. We have an OPWL network on LinkedIn. If you would mind connecting with people, you three ladies on LinkedIn, if anybody ever has a question or needs a tip or piece of advice. If you wouldn't mind that, but maybe people can find you there and find other people, other OPWL alumni that have just graduated and kind of can give that, fresh perspective on what it's like to make the transition. I think that's really valuable. And Tiffany, can you add anything, or would you like to add anything to that?
I would be happy to. Gosh, what happened to my screen? Can you still see me? Okay, here we go. It's like, oh, Facebook came up. I don't know what happened. Okay, let's see. Where do I begin? What worked for me, I came from Seattle to DC, didn't know anybody, but I started networking as well. I went to the ISPI meetings. I went to ASTD meetings, and because of what I learned at Boise State, I was able to have intelligent conversations with people in the field about this work that we do every day and build my network. So definitely do that, but be really strategic about how you do it. Um, for federal employees, I don't know if there are any federal employees on the call. Take advantage of your stretch assignments while you're in the program. Stretch assignments were the very thing that helped me build my resume and set the foundation for getting my job at the Department of Justice and just growing outside of being an executive assistant. I got opportunities to lead a leader development initiative, do change management where we used Cotter and the chocolate model for change and all that stuff that we learned in this program. So yeah, stretch assignments are your friend, but when it comes to preparing for the defense, do not do it by yourself. Get in a study group. I think Rick Newell is on the call. He was on my study group. I graduated because of his help and support. So do not do that by yourself. It goes so much easier, and it's a much easier process to prepare when you get in that study group. You help each other. I think of the phrase iron sharpens iron. That totally applies in that environment. So that's what I would share.
Awesome. Thank you so much. It's true. We talk about that. People come back and they say, we ask them, you did really well, and what did you do? Just so we can kind of pass that along to people who may not know you, that are coming in after. And people often say, study in a group, talk about it with your friends, especially for those people who are career changing, who may not be able to have a stretch assignment, or maybe don't have a job right now where they're able to talk about it on the workplace. It does help to have some friends that you can get on your, hook up with in Skype or Google Hangouts or on the phone or something like that, just to talk shop. Or visit our webinars, because we often hold webinars here in OPWL, and that's another opportunity just to chit chat about what's going on out there and what kind of challenges people are encountering and how they're solving those problems. So great advice. Thank you so much. Would you three have any last thoughts that you want to add before I open up our forum to questions from the audience? Just want to throw that out there. It's okay if you don't. Otherwise, I'm going to move and answer some questions here from our participants. Is that okay?
Yep.
All right, awesome. So I see Rick has a question. He graduated in December along with
It's
Tiffany.
me.
What suggestions do any of you three have for making a proposal to a current employer for creating a new position and promoting me into it to take advantage of my newly gained expertise from the OPWL program?
I can start with that. So one of the things that I have told the folks in my organization over and over again is nobody, and I mean nobody, needs training. They have a problem that they need to solve, and training should be the solution to that problem. So if training is the solution, then what is the problem? And to identify that problem. So if I were trying to create a new organizational role, I would identify the problem that that role is solving and addressing. And that way you can also demonstrate the value of this. And that tends to resonate most with executive leadership.
Right. Great insight. Anyone else have
Yeah,
anything to add to that?
yeah, I would in that presentation, just really heighten the what's in it for him or them, the organization factor. If you can connect what you're proposing to key business drivers and, results, all those things that executives are going to care about, I think that's going to help you state your case really well.
Good point. Good
Yeah,
point.
I agree. And then I would add on, it looks like it says that everyone in your department has a lot of training experience. So can you, coupled with defining that problem, maybe take some of the data? It depends, I guess, on how you're using data or evaluating, that training experience. But what value would there be in doing things in more of an Addy fashion, or additional value that you bring? So whatever data that you could bring to the table, that would be helpful, I think, as well.
Excellent, excellent. Yeah, so often training departments don't have the capacity to even go and get the data to define the problem, right? So that's already a value add, especially if you can, like you said, make a negotiation to say, okay, I'm going to show you this result down the road. Just give me a chance to try this out. Maybe a 6-month, secondment to see if it works for the organization, or a year secondment might be a way to go. I know in the NGO world, they often try people out in more advanced positions and find new opportunities within the organization for them to stretch and grow. Not sure what your organization is like, Rick, but definitely have that conversation about how to identify the problem, especially if that's not being done right now. If there are no further questions, I think we'll wrap it up and just say thank you so much. Thank you for the panelists for coming in and donating your time with us tonight. We really appreciate that. We are grateful for your insight and advice. And also, we're very proud of you here for all of your accomplishments in OPWL. And we always look forward to any opportunity that we have to connect with you. So thank you so much.
Thank you.
Yeah, thanks very much for having us.
Sure thing.
Been great.
And thank you guys for coming and asking good questions and being a part of the webinar, to everyone who showed up tonight in the audience. And with that, we'll conclude for this evening.